Hey guys, it's Jen. Welcome back. So today I'm going to talk to you guys about my meth addiction, the second part of it. I gave you guys a very basic rundown the other day of what some of it was like. Oh my God, look at my hair. It looks crazy today. So yeah, I started smoking meth in 2016. How I actually got my first taste of meth was very accidentally. I had been friends with someone who was a local bartender in the area. And Jared and I had broken up. And I was friends with him. He had a son, the bartender. He had a son I want to say maybe 2 years younger than Bella, a year or 2 years younger than Bella. He is engaged to a local girl, and we were all friends, except for Jared wasn't friends with them. He and Jared had literally gotten into a, funny thing. They had gotten into an argument because of me, and Jared literally crashed into his car because he drove onto our property. But anyway, that's a story for another time. I guess when he's here, I'll have him tell you that story. It's quite comical now. It wasn't, considering the police were sitting up the road and they came to the house immediately. It was a shit show. But, so, moving right along. So, I went over there for dinner. Bella and his son played. They had begun playing together often. He and I had become quite close. Her and I were going through old clothes. You know, shit you do when you go to your friend's house. At the time, I was still doing cocaine, but not regularly. I was really trying to stop. I was like, this is a problem. Plus I just fucking hated coke. So, okay, cool. I went home. He drove me home because at the time I didn't have a vehicle. He drove me home. And I had Bella, her overnight bag, because she was still young. You know, what if she needed a change of clothes or maybe pajamas because she fell asleep or whatever. I had her knobby, her car seat. So he was like, hold on. He's like, you take her, I'll take everything else. And I was like, all right, cool. I go into my apartment. I put Bella down in bed because she had fallen asleep. You know, so she was kind of groggy. So I put her on my bed. At the time, I had just left Jared and I only had a studio apartment in Sydney. It was a shithole. But I was doing the best that I could with what I had, which was nothing. So he was like, can I use your bathroom? I'm like, yeah, of course. Go ahead. So all of a sudden he goes in the bathroom, closes the door, he pops his head out real quick. He's like, you got a case or a compact or something I can use? And I was like, no. Here's the CD case. I know exactly what he was going to do. Or a DVD case. I gave him a DVD case, actually. So he does what he's going to do, and he comes back out, and he was like, I left you something up on the top shelf, because I had it was over the toilet shelf thing. You know, it was super, super high though. The person who owned the apartment buildings built it. So it was made out of wood. It wasn't one of those pretty ones. It was just a functional wooden shelf over the back of the toilet. So I said, do me a favor. Sometimes the door opens. I don't want her to come in, meaning Bella. Watch her real quick, and I'm going to go in the bathroom. I go in the bathroom, and there's this little teeny tiny line, and I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck am I going to do with this little piece of dental floss line of cocaine? So I do it, you know, of course, drugs, why would I not do them? Didn't even think in my wildest dreams that it would be something that I didn't know that it was. That's how quickly you can get fucked up and do a drug or get drugged, not in a fun way, and get taken advantage of. So I'm not saying that that's what happened, because it didn't, but I did not know what that was. So I sniffed this line, and my eyes are watering. I just got punched in the nose, and I go out and I was like, damn. I was like, that's got some kick. I was like, my throat is on fire. He's like, yeah, it's really, really good shit. He knew damn well at that moment, right then and there, that it was not cocaine, that it was methamphetamines, and he just gave me a drug I knew nothing about without my permission. So literally hours go by, and I'm wide awake. I don't know what's happening. Why 4 hours later am I still ready to run a marathon off of one tiny little line of cocaine, right? So what do? I'm like, oh, let me take some Benadryl. That'll calm my ass down. I'll be able to go to sleep. Yeah, okay. Finally, like another 3 hours go by, and I call Jared, and I was like, listen, I'm not giving you any names, I'm not saying anything, but I did a line of cocaine tonight, and I really don't feel all right. And he was like, what do you mean? What was it like? What is this? What is that? He was like, Jen, he was like, that was not coke. He was like, that was meth. And I'm like, meth? What are you talking about? I don't do meth. What? So he was asking me a couple questions, and he was like, call a fucking cab and put Bella in the car and get over here. I called a cab. There were no cabs running. I ended up paying someone like $10 to take me to his house. So I lived like 10 minutes away. So I wake poor Bella up. You know, she fell back asleep. She didn't really know what the hell was going on. And we go home to the house. Next morning, Jared's like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, my heart started to pound out of my chest. Like, I'm still up. I still feel like shit. Like, what is happening? So one thing led to another. I finally told him who I got it from, what it was. He was like, Jen, like, he's a meth addict. Like, he does meth. He smokes meth all the time. And I'm like, Jared, no, he doesn't. What's meth? Well, a couple days later, I went home. I went back out, seen the same person. He was like, I got another line of that if you want it. And I'm like, yeah, sure. I wanted to see. So what I did was I went in the bathroom, took my line. I scooped it into like a cellophane from a cigarette pack because I wanted to bring it to Jared and I wanted to prove to him he was wrong. I brought it to him and he was like, Jen, that's meth. Why do you think it's so crystally? Like, what do you think that is? He was like, stick your finger and taste it. And I was like, holy shit, that's gross. And he's like, yeah, that's meth. And I was like, wow, well, okay, guess I did meth. So that was my first experience ever doing it. A couple of months later, maybe a month goes by, a friend of Jared and I's comes by. He's got a bunch of meth. The only difference is he's smoking it. And I'm like, fuck it. I already know what it's about, right? Let's try it. Well, that was a whole different ball game for me. I actually enjoyed it. I didn't get that dreadful feeling that I would get when I did cocaine. I didn't feel that, like, I don't know, it was just a whole different beast for me. It made me think clearer, it made me calmer because obviously I have a form of ADD or ADHD or something. I think most people that enjoy doing drugs, you know, that's actually the case. So I know for my husband, he loves cocaine. It's his love in life. Like, that's his drug of choice through and through with everything. He is like it's so crazy to say, like, the type of different person he is when he does cocaine. He's like calm and level-headed and quiet and just the complete opposite of the person that he is. And it just goes to show how, like, there are these things in these drugs that they really do mess with the chemicals in our brain because they make us so different than who we really are. And, you know, for me, I really fell in love with methamphetamines. Like, I loved heroin, but meth, man, that was a whole different ball game for me, and I fell in love with it so easy. And so, like, I feel like with, like, heroin, it's progressive. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't ruin your life instantaneously. It does very quickly, but it's just a different beast than meth. Like, meth is instantaneous. Like, that shit ruins your life in, like, immediately, I feel like. Because when I started doing it, it wasn't such a sought after drug and it wasn't so well known in this area. It was really hard to get, so it made it a very close-knit community. People weren't educated on what to look for in a meth addict, so we were able to lie about it for that much longer. And it just, I don't know, it just literally, it became my master within the first 48 hours. Like, I just fell in love with it. It did something for me that no other drug or person ever did for me in my life. And I loved every second of it in the beginning until I realized how bad it was. And that was towards the end. And I remember one time saying to Jared, like, I need to go into detox or something. And he was like, really? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, all right. You know, like it got real bad real quick for me. And I didn't even recognize it until it was too late. And another part about meth that was for me. So I'm a feminist through and through. Like, sorry, I am. Jared jokes about it with me all the time. Like, if you turn any more into a feminist, I'm going to divorce you. Like, it's bad. Like, I'm all for it. Like, all for it. The meth, like in this area, like the leaders of the meth in this area were all female. Like, you would maybe deal with a dude, but his boss was a female. Like, and that just opened so many more doors for me because I came in as a female. And they were like, oh, all right away, introduced me to their girl. Like it literally was it was run by women, and I loved that shit. It was literally like a female drug cartel, and I loved it. And that was another thing that was empowering for me. And I don't know, like I met a lot of big players real quick, real fast. They trusted me. I never fucked them over. They would front me anything I wanted. Like I met one girl, and because her ex-boyfriend ripped me off one night, she met up with me 3 hours later and fronted me whatever we asked for. And I was like, whoa, I don't want that much. And she's like, you sure? I'll give you this whole bag. Like she was like, I know what a scumbag he is. You know, I've heard of you, blah, 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 blah. Like I was like, holy shit. We pulled away, and Jared and I looked at each other, and I was like, did that just happen? And he was like, she was going to give you that whole bag. And I'm like, yeah, I'm afraid to do something like that because when you front, you don't, you know, whatever you're making really ain't yours. And that's how you get into trouble. But yeah, so that was like how I really got into meth. It was as odd as it is to say, the first time was by mistake, but the second time definitely was not. I'm not even going to lie. I never shot it. Thank God. I have not picked a needle up since 2009 when I got clean from heroin. Jared never was into doing needles, and he made me promise when I finally came clean to him that, you know, I had been a heroin addict and whatnot, and that I used intravenously. He made me promise that I would never pick up needles, and I never did. I never touched a needle again. Thank God for that. So, yep. That's, you know, this is another part of how I became addicted to meth. And I hope you guys enjoyed hearing my story, and I will see you all in a few days. Bye.